The story starts with the main character narrating his isekai experience. He explains it as the average isekai and real-life loser gets summoned to a parallel world to defeat an evil demon, save the world, and return to his own world. The cliché isekai. However, that's not how it went for him. The protagonist is seen facing off with a demon, where he bravely swings his sword at the demon's neck, defeating it with his final blow. The demon vanishes as the protagonist lays on the floor, regretting his decisions. He's in a delusional state and talks to himself about how he's never going to do this kind of thing again. A goddess descends beside him as she feels ignored by his monologue. The protagonist is half dead and yells at her. She instantly heals him and acknowledges his efforts. He did indeed go through hell to save their world. The protagonist asks if this is the last thing that he needed to do. The goddess agrees, claiming the god Runavilia was the last threat to their world. She assures him that he will reach his world as they agreed on. The goddess tells him that he'd return as soon as he performs the ritual of return. She acknowledges the protagonist's efforts, being forcefully summoned, but still taking on the harsh trials of their world and restoring peace. The goddess Valienus offers her gratitude to the hero. The hero protagonist tells her not to summon him again for this, and for his hard work not to be wasted. Valienus did not meddle with the affairs of humans, but that she make an exception for him. He returns to the palace, where the hero is met with celebration and praise. A girl jumps on Yuya, the hero concerned about the blood on him. He tells he's been healed and pats her head. The people ask Yuya, is it over? He affirms the world has been saved. He's asked to go respond to the citizens. Yuya stands at the doors as the people look at him in anticipation. He raises his fist in the air in victory as the people celebrate the W. The hero reveals his name, Kashiwagi Yuya, in the real world. Yuya Kashagi in this one. 3 years ago, Yuya was summoned into the world Wilterias from modern-day Japan by the goddess Valienus. He was a university student with no remarkable features. He sits with Tia as he looks at his room there. Tia asks if he's really going back. Yuya starts to yap about how it's sad he won't see them again, while Tia starts to sob at his return. She begs him not to leave and stay. Tia didn't have a family. She lost her family after they were hunted down, and she was captured as well. Yuya and the others saved her, and she traveled with them ever since. Tia thinks of them as family now. And to lose her family again would be devastating. Yuya tells her that he would be returning to his own real world with his own family. Tia begs him to take her with him, but he can't. Modern-day folks won't accept a cat girl. The maid of their palace, Eris, calls for Yuya as the preparations have been done. Just like Tia, she asks the same, was he really returning? She almost complains that he never tried to get with her. Eris bargains for a little alone time with Yuya. Apparently, he's the raised god of this world, but then he's also a Sigma who won't accept any of the girls dying for him. Eris tells him that it's not too late still, but he declines again, trying to leave as soon as possible. She only wanted a minute of his time, but he kept up his Sigma persona. Eris keeps asking Yuya, but he scrambles to deny her. He does consider for a moment, but ultimately decides against it. Yuya is lead to the king as he bows down to him. As the others, the king too asks Yuya to stay in this world. He offers Malthuria, the second princess, as a bribe for him to stay. Yuya declines, to which the king thinks it may be because of her small stature. He offers Eris as well, who had already tried to make a move on Yuya. The princess praises him for his efforts and offers her gratitude. Like everyone else, she too wanted him to stay longer. The crown prince Leon walks in with the same request, for him to stay and be with the princess. Yuya's mags offer him their goodbyes, with one being bitter as he had been embarrassed by Yuya. He thanks everyone for their care during this time. The king asks if he had any last wishes before leaving. Yuya had only one wish, and it was for Tia to be taken care of. The king reassures him of this, claiming she's close to the princess Malthuria already. As Yuya says his goodbye to Tia, she asks him to visit her again if he's around. He then proceeds to the chamber, where Malthuria is to conduct the ritual of return. He apologizes for being late as she acts friendly to him. She wanted to be casual with Yuya, not how formal he acts. He thinks about her cuteness to himself, but doesn't let it out. Bro must be allergic to women. When Yuya arrived to Wilterias, they kept his original clothing. Now he'll be returning in those same clothes. Malthuria acknowledges the wrongdoing of dragging someone from the human realm to his one. Despite being burdened with these issues, he did not have any grudges. She offers her gratitude and that they will make the best of what he has given them. Malthuria tries to make a move on Yuya. She expected him to stay as her husband. As much as he wanted to be with her, he was more desperate to get home. He denies again and continues with the ritual. Malthuria starts the ritual, as Yuya's body glows a bright light, and in an instant, he vanishes back to his own world. Yuya is confused, trying to understand his surroundings. It's all how he left it. He looks at the time, and it was the exact time of when he got summoned. He becomes worried about his studies, if he would be able to remember anything at all. Before heading home, he decides to hit up McDonald's because he couldn't get those burgers in Wilterius. As Yuya heads out, he runs into his friend. He mistakenly greets her as if he's meeting after a long time. She finds this weird and says they met 2 days ago. Her name was Kudu Akane, Yuya's middle school friend. Akane notices Yuya acting differently. To be fair, he could spend 3 years in that other world. Yuya defends himself but is acting sus. Akane asks if he got a girlfriend, but then mocks her because he obviously couldn't. Yuya shoots back at her, saying she has the same experience as he does. He tells her he's about to go get a burger, and she claims to have the same craving. Akane quickly puts on her helmet and shoots for the nearest McDonald's. As they get their food, Akane notices again that Yuya is acting much different. She notices his physique has changed as well. Yuya says it might be because he started lifting recently, but Akane doesn't buy it. He jokes with her. Maybe it was because she had fallen for him. Akane thinks he said he wants to drink Coke through his eyes. As they joke, Akane notices he has started to cry. He plays it off to not arouse suspicion. Both head back to their homes. Yuya takes notice how nothing changed. His mom is working the night shift while his dad is abroad in the Middle East. He thinks to greet Ayumi first, but thinks to do it later. Yuya goes into his room and casually produces a magical ball of light and lays down on his bed. He suddenly realizes, why can he use his powers in the real world? He can't understand why. Was this the doing of Valinus? Yuya is surprised that he can use his magic in the real world. He tries out different abilities, fireball, wind, all he could still use. He uses appraisal on a watch his dad gifted him when he enrolled into college. It turns out to be a fake, and Yuya used to take good care of the watch. He tries out more things from the other world. Status to check his and other people's levels. Yuya's levels were busted as he grinded out in Wilterius. He expected as much to be high level in this world. He could also check the item box and inventory for his stuff. Yuya tries to think of why this is happening. Normally, the Ice Guy should have ended with him returning to his world, back to normal. Why did he keep his powers? Yuya gives a quick recap of what had happened all this time. He was suddenly summoned by Malthuria one random day. The goddess Valinus came to make things weirder and gave him powers. With these powers, she asked him to save the world and agreed to send him back once he did. Yuya trained in this world and defeated the Demon King, only to find out the real boss was the evil god Runavilio. After working his butt off, he managed to defeat Runavilio. Yuya returned to the capital in celebration and was sent back to his original world. Everything should be normal. Yuya assumes it has something to do with the goddess. She must have done something. Evidently, he did request this himself. He thinks it's okay if he doesn't use his powers, nor did he have the will to. Yuya sighs and flicks on the light as his magic light ball disappears. He thinks on how to hide his magic from the others. While he's changing clothes, Ayumi knocks on the door and barges in. Yuya is startled and tries to cover himself up as Ayumi notices there's something off about him. It was strange, everyone noticed something different about Yuya. He tells Ayumi he'll make him a meal later and for her to wait. Later, Yuya takes a sort of personal holiday from university to test out his abilities. He wants to see if he can use everything he could in Wilterius. The place is remote enough so no one would find him. As Yuya walks up the mountain, he doesn't feel tired. Obviously, the training of the other world is starting to show. He accidentally stomps a bit too hard on the ground, creating a large hole. Even he is amused to have done this and quickly fills the hole. He ends up making another one and scrambles to fill it too. He feels almost inhuman. Yuya uses more of his abilities: fire arrow, ice lance, water bullet. All of them work in this world as they did in Wilterius. There's not enough magic power on Earth for him to spam his magic. Even so, it far exceeded his expectations. Yuya opens his item box and selects the sword. It instantly spawns in his hand. He can use the item box with ease as well. The box has items from Wilterius, unknown to the people of Earth. He couldn't use these items as he looked like a nerd trying to cosplay. Maybe he could process the gems with his magic and sell them as extremely rare ores. Yuya sternly tries to use his summoning powers to call forth Keijiru, the Shadow Wolf. The wolf doesn't summon, embarrassing Yuya, hoping that no one saw, because he'd vanish out of embarrassment. Suddenly, there opens a hole in the ground, spawning Keijiru. He looks at Yuya and instantly pounces at him, pushing him to the ground and licking his face. He was delighted to see Yuya. Yuya backs off a little and tries to make sense of this. He was indeed successful in summoning his wolf. Keijiru was a mythical beast, able to hide in the shadows. With high intelligence, it can understand human language. Yuya found him in the Evil King's dungeon and saved him, making Keijiru his companion. He talks to Keijiru, telling him how he's testing out his powers. Yuya forgot about Keijiru while being so busy in Wilterius, which makes the wolf angry, but all in good spirit. Yuya sends him back and concludes his test of magic. He decides to go for lunch and buy some clothes after. Teleporting to his bike, he goes to the nearest fast food place. Yuya stuffs his face up and thinks to himself he still had to buy clothes. He spent too much money on food. He decides to go buy a lottery ticket, but it isn't his luck by which he'll win. Yuya asks to choose the scratch card himself. Using his appraisal ability, he checks which one of the cards has the winning money. He finds the winner card and scratches it there, winning the prize for 50,000 yen. Despite winning, he feels bad for cheating the system. It's like shoplifting without anyone finding out. Using appraisal would be good on checking the authenticity of things, not to cheat. Yuya feels guilty having done this and decides never to do it again. As he's on his way, he hears some commotion. Akane and Nana-chan are being bullied by some low-level jerks. Yuya butts in and deals with the dudes. He uses status to reveal their stats and power, which are way too low. Yuya gets cocky, knowing he could beat them with his eyes closed. He takes a coin and bends it with his fingers in front of them, showing insane strength. Yuya gives the guys the coin and they run off, apologizing for their behavior. Akane asks what he did, but he only vaguely tells her, making up some story of a coworker. Akane asks what he's doing out here. Yuya answers that he's looking for clothes, to which Akane offers her girly expertise. They help out Yuya pick out clothes, then he treats them to dinner like a true gentleman. He thinks the money was well spent and he donates the remaining money, clearing his guilty conscience. As they're all about to head home, a car crashes into a girl on the road. A terrible accident it seems. As Yuya and his friends are walking back, an accident occurs in front of them. A girl is lying on the road. He asks Nana and Ayumi to call the emergency services and Akane to check on the people in the car. He himself rushes to help the injured girl. He uses inhibit perception, an ability of his to conceal his presence. He also busts their phone for taking pictures of the scene instead of helping. He checks for her vitals and assesses the damage. She has severe organ and skull damage. He heals her using his abilities. The girl tries to move, but he tells her that help is coming. His friends are looking for him, but he is concealed. Removing the spell off him, he walks up to them. They inform him that an ambulance is on its way. He looks around for Kane, who is busy nagging the driver. He is more invested in tweeting to people about his crash instead of calling for help. He tells her to shut up as it does not involve her. This makes Yuya angry, and he goes for the driver's throat. Lifting him up by the collar, he chokes him slightly. Akane grabs onto his arm and presses into him. The feeling makes him drop the guy. A distant ambulance rolls into the accident. The injured girl is taken away, and the incident is reported to the authorities. The friend group recalls their day and decide to part ways. Akane wants to ask Yuya something but decides against it. Nana asks Akane if she's okay. Akane is occupied elsewhere. She asks Nana if she saw a light surrounding Yuya. Not very discreet of the magic boy. Nana is confused but does not push further. There was a lot of light in the scene, so it was probably no big deal. She then asks Akane about her hug. She's happy and wants to hear the tea from her later at night. Akane denies the reason for her hug, and Nana has none of it. She wants a sleepover with the girls to gossip. 2 days after the accident, Yuya is at his workplace. His uniform is very tight on him. His new gains have made him very buff. He thinks of the accident. The girl was thankfully okay. The driver got his license suspended. Yuya thinks the punishment is not enough, so he curses him. The driver will have diarrhea every time he is feeling freaky. Yuya found this spell in the Demon King's books. He focuses back on his workplace. His manager greets him and he's surprisingly early. He has decided to put effort and work, as 3 years in an alternative world have made him out of touch with reality. Yuya's manager blushes when she notices he is shirtless. She scrambles to find him an appropriate size shirt. She thinks whether or not he was always this pleasing to the eyes. He works very hard to please the customers as his coworkers praise him. He is thankfully still able to work. Being sculpted, Yuya is able to work harder. He finds himself enjoying work. He is brought out of his thoughts when a customer laughs too loud. His coworker asks him to keep his voice down. This makes the customer angry as he starts screaming at her. Yuya steps in and asks him to quiet down or leave. He uses the customers are always right tactic on him. Yuya calls him a nuisance. The angry customer stands up to fight him, but Yuya has another card up his sleeve. Using his magic abilities, he overwhelms the customer and makes his group leave. The manager comes running and apologizes for not stepping in. He tells her he is going to change as he is wet now. The manager thinks he peed his pants trying to scare the angry customer away. His coworkers tease him. He is a human after all. Using magic makes his life easy, but karma makes sure to balance it out. Yuya sits at his desk with the holy sword on the table. He was given this sword by the king in the other world. It was to be returned back, but he forgot, and now it's with him ever since. Though he defeated the demon king and evil gods, there were some demons left in Wilterias, and this holy sword was of no use in the real world. Yuya decides it's time to return it back to its rightful place. He goes into a remote but open place. Yuya thinks, there is a way to send things back. He figured it out after summoning his familiar Keijiru. When he dismissed Keijiru, he went back to the other world. By this logic, if he gives Keijiru the sword, it should return back to the kingdom of Ariamis. However, he'd be summoning someone else this time, Relia the dragon. He says the summoning words, and with swift winds comes forth Relia. Yuya talks to Relia about his summoning and his whereabouts. Relia is quite amused to be in Japan to be summoned on Earth. Though she's happy to see him, she gets to business. What did he need from her? Yuya tells her about the thing he forgot to return. Relia wasn't the type of familiar to mingle with humans. She did not care for human society, nor would she want to visit the royal palace. Relia wasn't the typical kind of familiar. Usually, familiar must submit and make a contract. This time, Relia and Yuya had mutual benefits from each other, so they used the summoning magic to their advantage. Hence, Yuya asks for a favor and doesn't give her an order. Relia asks for something in return. Yuya had always told stories about his real world, and now that she was finally here, she wanted to see this world too. He agrees, but not while she looked a mythical being. In an instant, Relia transforms and changes her appearance into a human being. She's almost a bit too much for Yuya, and he asks her to quit fooling around. He tells her not to speak of the other world to anyone here, since they are not aware. Relia sits on the motorcycle with Yuya, and they set off to see the city. She's as amused as a child. The roads being smooth, the tall buildings. Relia compliments the otherworld people. Yuya explains, they don't have magic, but through advanced science they are thriving. However, when he was in the other world, he couldn't really understand magic, so he understands how Relia must feel. Yuya takes her for some dessert. She's hyped about the taste, willing to destroy a country just to get more of this parfait. Yuya tells her to go easy on the desserts because he's a broke dude in the real world. Relia cries out despite already having 3 parfaits to eat. She offers her scale or nail to sell, but he can't sell them here. They immediately leave despite Relia's cries. Yuya tells her how he has classes in the afternoon, so he must head there. Relia wants to join him for university, but he's weirded out by that. Alternatively, she offers Yuya that she'll explore the city on her own. Knowing her, she'd spend all his money on desserts, so he decides to take her to university. They explore the campus together, with Relia being amazed by the size of it. As they're about to enter, they're asked for identification. Relia doesn't have one. She shows her guild card, which baffles Yuya. Surprisingly, she's let in without trouble. Japan didn't accept guild cards. Apparently, she put magic on the card so it would show what the person wanted to see. She gets the visitor pass and they move on. A voice calls out for Yuya, startling him. It's Akane asking about the woman with Yuya with an ice-cold smile. Akane asks Yuya who this girl was. Relia asks him the same but addresses him as master as she did in the other world. Akane is shook. Why would anyone call Yuya master? Real freaky stuff. He comes up with a story that Relia is Layla, his father's acquaintance, and he's guiding her through her time in Japan. Despite the fake story, Relia continues to call him master and blow his cover. Akane shoves Yuya to the side and introduces herself to her. She compliments Relia and she tells how Yuya used to talk about Akane. However, his jokes might seem insensitive here. Relia tells her how he thinks he's stuck with Akane, and that she's bad company. Yuya scrambles to break this interaction. Akane decides to join his class. Akane guides Relia and tells her the places she'd want or need to go to. Akio tags along, asking about the girl with Yuya. He wants to get to know Relia. Akio is his senior, a third-year law student. He wasn't a bright student and rode his motorcycle all the time. Relia asks about this new person, while Yuya roasts him in front of her. Akio instantly bursts out at Relia, complimenting her good looks, saying no one compares. Akane gets a compliment out of Akio as well. Ba Iljima from the rugby club barges in. He's apparently the athletic jerk. Akio defends Relia, saying he has no business with her. This makes Iljima angry, trying to start a fight. Yuya steps in, but he acts the same with him. Iljima tells him to bug off, but to Yuya this dude just seems dumb. Iljima tries to be intimidating, but Yuya's stats are way too high. Relia makes a remark at Iljima, calling him an idiot before grabbing him by his face. She asks Yuya for further order, but he stops her there, so they don't make a scene. He gets Iljima to his feet and warns him not to get cocky next time. Akane becomes Seuss of this Layla girl who seems to be so strong. Yuya plays it off saying she just happens to be that way. Yuya quickly leaves with Relia and Akane, leaving Akio behind. Yuya monologues he knew it'd turn out this way. The two worlds don't mix well. Relia wants to go inside Yuya's home as well and greet his family. He really doesn't want her to be around any longer because of the mess it creates. She reassures him that she'll fix any mistakes with her magic. He agrees. As they enter into the house, Ayumi surprises them. She has a welcome sign for Relia. Yuya is confused and surprised. He asks how she knew about this. Apparently, Ayumi and Akane are texting buddies. She told her that she'd be bringing a female acquaintance over. The girls have a good time at the house. They have a good meal together, take a shower, and goof around. Yuya lays on his bed, sighing that the day is over. Meanwhile, Akane asks Relia bluntly what was her relationship with Yuya. Relia answers of her true relationship from the other world. She explains how they have a bond that links their souls together, not romantically. Akane is weirded out. Ayumi asks if she likes Yuya. She answers that she does see his appeal, and that she definitely does like him. Relia asks Akane to counter-question her relationship with Yuya. Akane says they're friends, and she trails off. Relia asks if they've slept together, causing Akane to blush. Maybe she does want it to happen. Ayumi will keep an eye on Relia. She wants to be friends with the two. Yuya presses his head to the wall to hear what they're talking about, but nothing comes through. Relia gives them more details about their relationship of 3 years. Yuya rushes into the room in case she lets anything slip out. They kick him out of the girls' only talk. Yuya lays on his bed, thinking he should return the holy sword properly this time. He's getting nothing by relying on his familiar. Relia recalls how she met her master. It's a very fond memory for her as she thinks back. In her dragon form, she's resting in her cave as she feels someone calling to her. She was used to the solitude as it let her rot in her cave. Sometimes the loneliness got to her, and she used to leave the cave to combat it. About 2 years from the present time, a breeze for someone as old as time, she met Yuya. As usual, she was resting in her cave when she met 4 people. She cannot like humans. They are greedy and always fighting each other. If they disturb her peace, she will not hesitate to get rid of them. She threatens the leader, who does not make any moves to leave. A real Chad. He asks for her help in defeating the Demon King and saving his country. She denies her help because she does not like to meddle with human affairs. Yuya offers a bet. She will give him a task, and if he cannot complete it, he will do as she wishes. If he wins, she will lend a fraction of her power. A fair deal. The dragon bursts out laughing. She asks his source of determination. He tells how he got transported to this world to help the people. He cannot leave them be because he will not be satisfied. People-pleasing is a hobby of this real-world loser. Amused by this, the dragon asks him to bend her to his will and make her submit. Behind him, Tia clings onto him. She doesn't want him to risk his life. He draws his sword and prepares for battle. Relia thinks of his sincere look and cannot help but not dislike him. She lets him win because of his determination. Very dabeo of him. She wants to see what Yuya accomplishes in the future and names him her temporary master. The flashback ends. Relia is leaving Yuya's house. She thanks them for their hospitality. Yuya is glad that there were no problems in their meetup, but Relia cannot leave until he sends her back. He was the one who brought her here in the first place. He nags her not to use her magic in the open. No one should see her teleporting. They decide to meet on the mountain where he summoned her. As she is leaving, she decides to give Yuya a parting gift. She kisses him on the lips, a small victory for her to make Akane jealous. Smugly, she leaves as Akane fumes in the background. Yuya blushes all 50 shades. Akane glares at him and gets mad that he liked the kiss. She tries to hit him as he runs away. Relia and Yuya meet in the mountain where he first summoned Relia. Relia is flying in her dragon form in a very happy mood. She leaves to fulfill her end of the bargain and return the holy sword. Yuya is very sus about her giddiness. Previously, he questioned why she kissed him out of nowhere. Akane and his sister chase after him for long, trying to get information out of him. Relia asks if he did not enjoy the kiss. He quickly denies. Yuya hands a hub box to Relia. She opens it to reveal a whole box of parfaits. Drooling, she fangirls over her new favorite dessert. Yuya tells her how he managed to arrange a whole box for her just because she liked it so much. Happily, Relia hugs him and squishes him in her chest. He pushes her away, not wanting to suffocate. Relia wanted him to enjoy her warm embrace. She then mentions that she must compensate for this gift. Yuya tells her that delivering the holy sword will be enough. He also got extra parfait for Mel and her family. She must not forget to deliver the treat to Mel and the others. It's a souvenir from their friend. Relia is happy to share and gossip about Yuya with the girls. Yuya uses his magic and Relia starts to glow. She's about to be sent back to her own world. Before leaving, she asks him to summon him once a month at least. He will miss her too, he tells. She leaves the world happily. In the kingdom of Arianas, Princess Melthuria Mirad is sitting at her desk doing some paperwork. She sighs and gets up to enjoy the cool breeze. In the distance, she spots a bird-like object flying towards her. As it flies closer, she recognizes Relia and rushes to welcome her. Relia lands on her claws, startling the guard, who screams like a girl. Leon Reedith, the crown prince, asks if something is wrong. Her sudden arrival could mean trouble is stirring in the kingdom. Relia transforms back into her human form. She coolly tells that everything's okay. She is visiting to fulfill a request from her master. Malthuria, hearing Yuia's name, rushes up to her and greets her. Liam leaves the ladies to catch up and spill tea to each other. In reality, he is scared of Relia because she's a big, scary dragon. The girls know this and let him leave. Relia hands the sword over to Mel, who is shook to the core at the goddess gift. Relia casually throws the precious national treasure at a nearby guard. Mel, still shocked, asks if Relia met Yuia. She cannot believe her ears. Relia flexes that she was summoned, and he took her to a lot of places. Eris, the head maid, cuts in their conversation and offers them a place to sit. Tia has also been summoned to chat away with the girls. Tia comes running as she spots Relia. Both of them are happy to see each other. Mel stares at them blankly. She's lost in her own world. Eris takes a slipper and smacks her on the head to call her back. Mel comes back to her senses but doesn't know what happened. She questions the slipper in Eris' hand, who quickly hides it behind her back. Pushing that matter aside, Mel asks if it was true that Relia met Yuia. She confirms and offers his gift to them. They all coo of the tasty dessert. Eris wonders if she can make the same thing in her own worlds as Tia happily noms away. They conspire to eat the kings and the princess parfaits too while they are busy. Mel is in disbelief. The summoning seems shady to her. Tia wishes she was in a contract with him to be summoned by him too. Relia ponders whether the goddess pulled some strings for him to be able to do this. Very sus. Otherwise, this was impossible to accomplish. Relia thinks that the goddess isn't up to any good. She vows to not let the goddess use him again. Relia believes in her strength even though she's not at god level herself. Mel is still lost in her world. She just wants to meet Yuia. She asks Relia if she can meet Yuia again. It is possible for a summoner to summon multiple beasts at a single time. She flexes on them that Yuia will summon her every month. Mel has stars in her eyes. She wants to meet her knight in shining armor again. Eris teases her, but Mel denies quickly. She does not want to meet Yuga. What it's Sundeer. Caught in 4K, Eris reveals she never named anyone. Relia is confused by this matter. Eris spills the beans and tells how obvious Mel's crush on Yuia is. She often grins where she's daydreaming about Yuia and blushes red like a tomato. A true hopeless romantic. Relia promises to take them with once Yuia has properly settled. Tia jumps out of her seat happily. She cannot wait to meet Yuia. Mel is lost in her own world again. She thinks she cannot have feelings for Yuia because she's a princess. Her duty comes first. She faints thinking about her one-sided love. Tia rushes to her side as Eris thinks how fun it will be to tease Mel for her feelings. Yuia is dazed. He needs money now. He looks back on the events, being summoned to another world, defeating the evil gods and returning, but now he's in a financial crisis. He did not get the bag in the real world. Yuia makes a necklace for his mom, showing it to her. She's surprised to know he knew how to make such things. She's amazed and happy with the gift. It was his first attempt at making such a thing. Yuia thought to live a fulfilling life after he returned back from Wilterius, but everything here costs money, something he did not have much of. His salary from his part-time job won't do much. Yuia decides to use his magical powers and do the unthinkable to make money. Make handcrafted accessories and sell them online, real original. He uses the silver and gold from the item box and makes accessories. He decides to imbue the handicrafts with magic to have some healing properties, but it wouldn't be as strong as the original magic. Later, Ayumi comes home. Then her mother shows Ayumi the necklace he made for her. Ayumi bursts out asking where's her necklace. Ayumi is a little sus of him but approves of his venture. Yuya doesn't have a page for his accessories. Ayumi decides to help out with this and he offers to split the money as an incentive. They both agree to do their best. Their mother will be leaving in the coming week, asking Yuya for the usual help. He must deliver some bento to the office. Yuya arrives there, talking to the nurse at the reception. There was some meeting. Miyuki loves Yuya's homemade food. Apparently, it was a sort of delicacy and enough food for 5. While they take the food from him, Yuya shows his collection of handmade accessories. The 3 women are excited over how cute they are. They talk about how his mother talked about the necklace he gave her and how pretty it was. Yuya offers them to pick one. From the corner of his eye, he notices a little girl who runs off when he sees her. The girl, Mia, was transferred from the pediatric ward to this one. She shouldn't be wandering out her room alone. One of the nurses goes to look for her while thanking Yuya for the food. Yuya walks outside and spots Mia sitting alone on a bench. He walks up to her and casually starts a conversation with her. Mia, being the polite kid, greets him. Yuya informs her that the nurses are looking for her all over the hospital. He offers to take Mia back to scream at him. She refuses to go back. Pouting like a little brat, Mia makes no move to go back. Yuya bends down to her level and shows her a trick. He makes fire appear on the tip of his finger. It dances around and a few more fire bubbles circle around Mia. Impressed by the trick, she wants to see more. Yuya promises her that if she behaves, he will show her more tricks. They pinky promise and Mia gets up to leave. Yuya is back at the hospital. The nurses happily greet him and coo him. They mention his accessories. Yuya thinks he is cooked. Maybe the magic he did on the charms caused something bad to happen. He is freed of the negativity when the nurses tell him that good things have happened. Their pain and energy have improved after using his accessories. They ask him how he was able to do this. Yuya, unable to explain the magic, tells them he used power crystals. Bro is becoming a crystal girly. The nurses wonder if power crystals are even real. They seem too gimmicky to be true. Yuya wants the spotlight off him, so he goes along with their assumptions. He asks where Mia's room is. The nurses question his intentions and he reveals that he showed her a trick. This explains why the spoiled child was so obedient. Yuya asks why he was being kept in a different ward. Apparently, Mia got into a fight with some other kid. To keep her safe, they shifted her here. Yuya bids the nurses farewell and marches on to find room 412. He will meet his magic buddy there. He spots another kid standing in the entrance of room 412. Yuya spies on the kid and spooks him out as he grabs the kid. Yuya takes the kid away as he wants to have a little chat with this boy. He hands a water bottle to the kid, asking him what business he has with Mia. The kid calls him an oldie. This offends Yuya as he pinches the kid's cheek. Yuya guesses this is the kid who fought Mia and asks for his name. He is Ichinos Yu. Yu spills that he was very rude to Mia in their fight. Mia is a lonely kid. Her parents don't come to visit her and she takes her anger out on other children. During an interaction of Yu with his mother, she throws a pillow at him. In a fit of anger, he tells Mia that her parents don't visit because of her rude behavior. Yu's mother gets mad at him for his remark. After that incident, Mia was shifted to the other ward. Yu wants to make up for his rudeness. Yuya offers to help his little buddy out. He lifts Yu up in his arms and takes him to room 412. Mia is waiting on a bed. She gets very excited to meet Yuya, but her energy drains when she sees Yu. Yuya pushes Yu in the room. He is at a loss of words, but then manages to apologize. An older woman walks in as she calls out to Mia. Looking at the intruders in Mia's room, she questions them. Yuya introduces himself as the son of a nurse. He also introduces Yu and his reason for being in Mia's room. The woman says that it was Mia who threw hands first, and she should be the one to apologize. She nudges Mia to say sorry. Mia, as directed, apologizes. The older woman introduces herself as Mia's mother, Luna Ayako. Mia asks Yuya to show his magic as she has been waiting too long. Yuya asks the others in the room to watch too. He brings his hand up and water bubbles start appearing in the room. He twirls them around as Mia becomes happier. For his next trick, he makes a huge bubble of water splash on Yu. He also makes paper cranes fly around the room. They're all having fun. Yuya then asks Mia for her favorite animal. Being the odd kid she is, she tells him it's an isopod. Yuya excuses that he's on vacation. She chooses another animal, equally as odd as the first, a naked mole rat. Ayako tells her to be normal. She finally settles for a kitty. Yuya places a handkerchief on his hand and chants some magic words. A necklace with a kitten charm appears on his hand. He offers more charms to Ayako and Yu too. Ayako asks if it's okay to accept such an expensive gift. Yuya tells her to match with her daughter. This is his scheme. The magical items will keep Mia safe from sickness and make her feel less lonely. Ayako thanks Yuya for his time. He's the real deal. Little does she know, he's an actual magician. Yuya, being the dumb idiot he is in real life, realizes he used his magic in front of a lot of people. Well, now it's too late to fix this. Ayako is happy to see her daughter having fun in the ward. Mia hasn't been this happy since she got sick. Yuya notices his spell is working. People around him are happier. Using magic in the real world is still cheating, but he does not mind as long as it makes the people he's around happy. Ayako asks for another favor from Yuya. Mia will undergo surgery soon and she wants him to keep her company. Yuya is glad to be of service. Somewhere far away, a secret coup is being planned. Some men are talking about preparations of some plan. They talk about the ambassador of the country I and the Japanese high official being the prime targets. They don't want to get rid of a lot of people. A few causalities don't matter to them. At 11 p.m., their mission at the Tokyo Museum will begin. The guy laughs menacingly as various tools scatter around the room as he exclaims that his work is finally done. He reveals a cool metallic suit with stones and it shines really well on Yuya. The guy gives him a thumbs up as he says that he himself really did a good work and the armor looks good on Yuya. Yuya stands there with a defeated pose and asks whether he can take off the armor suit now or not. The guy nods as he asks if he can take it off on his own, and Yuya tells him that he kind of got used to it, so he does not require any help to get it off. He takes off the helmet and says that he has to try on this armor every summer and winter regularly. Yui reveals that the reason he is wearing the Henshin hero costume is because he is indeed an ex-hero who can use magic even in the modern life. He pauses before he says that it is just a part-time job and he wears the suit to earn some money. The guy packs up him tools as he says that it took a lot of his effort to properly modify it according to Yui's needs because he has physically changed so much over the years. Yuya apologizes for being physically fit and taking care of himself as if that's a problem that should have never existed, and the guy just laughs as he says that it is not a big deal because now Yuya looks so much more cooler when he wears the suit. He tells him that he looks cool when he does his rider kicks, and Yuya looks uninterested as he asks if he has to do the rider kicks for sure, and the guy starts to seriously yelling that he of course has to do the rider kicks because just looking nice in a costume is not enough to attract people in these times. The guy is introduced by Yuya to be known as Seitu Yushuk, who is a hardcore tokusatsu otaku and a science major in the same university as Yuya. He's a hardcore nerd to his every last muscle fiber. Ever since the two of them met in high school, Seitu always employs Yuya to be the cosplayer in every summer or winter cosplay event every year. Since everyone likes to see Yuya in his cosplay, he always counts on him to make his cosplays look good. In return, Yuya gets paid really well. Yuya sighs as he asks himself what he does to earn money, when really visited the day before he really lost a lot of money. And then there is also training camp for the circle, when the summer vacation starts, so Yuya is really short on money. Whenever he agrees to cosplay for Seitu, he feels so embarrassed that he thinks his dignity is non-existent, as if he already is not super cringe, but since the pay is really good, that is why he goes along with it. Seitu asks if he wants a cola while he gets change, and Yuya sighs as he sits down and says that he's going to catch his breath for a bit. Seitu excuses himself and turns on the TV. He turns on the news, on which it is reported that a driver was driving recklessly, and when Seitu comes back, he says that he heard Yuya came with a really pretty woman to the university, and Yuya is surprised and asked who he heard such a thing from. Seitu shows his phone as he says that Ayumi texted him and gave him all the tea. For a moment, Yuya had forgotten that Seitu gets along with Ayumi. Seitu asks him if he knows what Ayumi is doing today, and he tells her that she left for a Persian art exhibition with a cannon. The news lady in the TV brings another news for the viewers and says that there was a report of explosion at the Tokyo Museum and the police were notified by civilians. After the explosion, a lot of foreign men entered the building while carrying small arms and took the visitors of the museum, and the ambassador from the country, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, were taken hostage by the men with arms and committed crimes. Seitu wonders for a moment and says that the museum is where the Persian art exhibition is being held, and Yuya stands up in shock as Seitu says that today was the opening day and it seems like the ambassador was here for the memorial ceremony. Yui remembers that both Ayumi and Akane went to the museum for the exhibition, and judging from the news on the TV, they are being held captive right this moment. Yuya takes hold of his phone and dials Ayumi's phone number and tried to call her when the computer tells him that the number he dialed is unavailable. Yuya quickly switches the channel on the TV to find more information and confirm his suspicions. He immediately goes to think of a game plan and thinks that he will confirm their position and where they are by using his magic, and if they are over there and have been taken as hostages, then he will go head first and try to save them. But he also does not want anyone to know about his powers, and he has to disguise himself before he goes in to save them. He turns to look at the suit that Seitu gave to him earlier, quickly pushes Seitu on his head and knocks him out and takes care of him nonetheless, and thinks that he just wants Seitu to sleep for a bit by casting a sleeping spell on him. He decides to borrow the suit that Seitu works so hard on. The people keeping them hostage say that if everyone keeps calm and sits still, no one will get hurt, and Akane and Ayumi cuddle towards each other to keep safe. Akane tells her that the help will come soon and tells Ayumi not to worry, and thinks if only Yuya was present, she would feel more comfortable, but before she can continue, she thinks of herself that even if he was with them, he would not be able to do anything against the people who are keeping them hostage. Meanwhile, Yuya uses magic to fly across buildings and thinks to himself that if he could, he would teleport to the museum, but it can only be used to teleport to places that have been marked with magic circle beforehand, and since he had one in the university, he could easily teleport, but to the museum he cannot teleport. And people would not be able to notice him flying by. Even they saw him, he would not be recognized because he is wearing a disguise. He sees the museum and uses his search magic to confirm if the two of them are inside the museum or not, and ends up finding the magic necklace he had given to Ayumi before. He really did not think that it would be useful in this way and tries to think how he should save the two, and decides that he should just use his brute force to rescue the two. He remembers that there were explosions and then searches for the explosives and finds them. He drops down and a few people notice and wonder where he came from and wonder why he looks like a weirdo. He creates a barrier around the explosives and says that now the one go off, and since he does not have the skill to defuse, all he can do is protect them. He searches for the position of the people with arms and makes his move. He knocks down the men using his magic. When he reaches to the rest, he notices a little boy protecting his mother from the bad guys, and he is surprised to see such a sight. The bad guy gets ready to pull the trigger at the little boy who seems to be protecting his mother and little sister. When Yuya sees this, he forms a protective barrier around the boy and the bullets stop before reaching him. Yuya steps in to take the gun from the guy who is surprised and confused by that is happening. He fights off another bad guy and goes to the kid who is shaking with fear and tells him that he did well and that now he is safe. He fights off every last bad guy, goes to the hostages and tells them to go down calmly by the stairs and evacuate, and once they are out they should find police nearby to keep them safe. He goes to fight the other bad guys in the building and thinks hard of a game plan. He rushes in to take down guys one by one and using his bind magic. The bad guys are all confused at what is happening, and when he fights against the captain, he feels like the captain is the best soldier among everyone else, but even he does not have anything against his magic. The captain gets mad and takes out a remote and starts to press button. When nothing happens, he is confused and clicks the buttons on the remote hysterically. Yuya looks at him and uses his magic to finish him. People rush in to save the ambassador, but get stuck on the barrier that Yuya put up. They ask Yuya who he is, and Yuya tells them that he took care of all the bad guys and also evacuated everyone and tells them to evacuate as well. Ayumi and Akan walk out of the building and wonder if they are safe now. As they walk, Ayumi looks at Yuya in disguise and he freezes and wonders if she knows that it is him, and there is no way that she knows it is him because he is wearing a disguise. The police come inside and he tells them that he took care of everyone, and when they ask for him name, he tells that since he is wearing a costume, he can't tell them his name. He tells them the location of explosives he found before and asks them to take care of it. He excuses himself to leave, but they stop him and say that he needs to come to the police office for a bit to take his statement. Yuya asks if he can skip Tat and leaves without saying anything else. Everyone is left wondering where he vanished to, and someone even goes as far to say that he might be a ghost or something. He teleports back to Seiku's house where he left his magic circle before. He sees Seitu still sleeping where he left him and takes off his costume as he thinks that it has not even been 1 hour since he slept, so it makes sense for him to be still sleeping, and decides to hurry and take off the costume to the way things were before. He does not want to admit something because he is embarrassed, but he was only able to head to the museum thanks to him and the costume that he gave to Yuya. A maid asks Melthuria to let her take part in the battle, who turns around to say that the war is between the kingdom and the empire and there is no reason for her to get involved. She tells her to leave right now and find Relia. Yuya's little sister knocks on the door of his room and tells him to wake up. She looks irritated because she has been knocking for a while, but he just would not wake up. It seems like before it was just a dream that Yuya was having. Yuya groans as in his sleep as he sluggishly wakes up and scratches his head. He suddenly has an annoyed expression on his face as he remembered the events of the past few days. The reason he is annoyed by everything is because his cosplay at the exhibition a few days ago, where he took care of the terrorists and he saved his friends, were saved and people were sent home safely. He thought that it would be over for him and everyone would just forget about it, but he had never been so wrong before. The next few days, the news was on the media, and they were really making a huge deal out of the mysterious person that appeared out of nowhere, which was for sure Yuya in his disguise. His family usually let the TV run in the back, and he is made to watch himself on the news and die from embarrassment of himself. Each time he sees it, he thinks why he had to flip his coat and turn around like a cringe lord after defeated the enemies, and did he really have to such a pose for the TV? He curses at himself for being so embarrassing and cringe and wonders what is wrong with him. He wants to dig a hole underground to hide in forever. Rather, someone should just bury him alive and let him disappear for 2 months. And just like this, a whole entire week has passed. He gets out of his room and his little sister has food in her mouth and tells him that his food is on the table. He thanks her as she is watching the TV. She suddenly says that the cosplay of the hero guy in the TV looks as terrible as the cosplay that Yuya does. In fact, it also looks so similar that one would think it is the same costume. She turns around to ask if he really is not the secret here, and Yuya quickly disagrees as he says that there is no way that he is, and he was at Seiku's place when everything was happening, so she has no reason not to believe him or think that he is the secret hero. Also, there is no way that he can use magic to play. His sister nods as she says that he needs about 10 years before he can become a wizard, and he tells her that he's going to sue her for defamation. He looks at his phone to see a reminder that he had made a promise to Relia that he would summon her at least once a month, and it has already been a month since she was last summoned. He thinks that it is about time that he should call her. His sister asks what his plans are for the day, and he tells her that he is going to summon Relia, and she asks if Relia is staying here again, and there is a weird air in the air as she thinks she stepped on a landmine when she asked him such a question. When he summons her, a dragon shows up and says that she thought he would have forgotten about the promise the two of them made, but she was proved to be wrong. She bows her head as she says that she is happy that she was summoned by Yuya, and he asks whether she delivered the holy sword. She says that she did, and suddenly someone jumps onto him while yelling his name. Yuya is surprised to see that it is Tia, and she is so happy to see Yuya again, and she can't believe that she finally met him. She can't believe it, so she tried to sniff him and realized that she indeed is not dreaming. Yuya asks how she even got to him and asks Relia if she was in the capital. She tells him that she is at her nest, and when she returned the holy sword, she told Mel and Tia about how she met Yuya, and when they heard about him, Tia came to her nest and said that she really wanted to meet Yuya. Yuya stands there and says that he is happy that Tia thought about him, but if she stayed for too long, then it would cause few issues. Tia asks if she can't stay with him, and he tells her that it is not that she, but just that her ears and tails will cause a problem because people with beast-like features don't exist in the human world, and if someone sees her, they are going to freak out and the news will spread like wildfire. And if she even wanted to live, she would need to be registered first, and it would be okay if she temporarily lived in his house, but he can't keep her with him forever. Relia says that she can use her magic to deal with the issue of her appearance, and she would not have to live in this world forever. Tia smiles as she says that it is okay because she does not want to make trouble for Yuya, and she is just happy to see him again after so long. Yuya thinks for a while and asks Relia to hide Tia's ears and tails, and Tia smiles all of a sudden with tears in her eyes, and he pats her head to comfort her. Relia transforms into her human form and tells Tia that she might feel a bit weird, but she will soon get used to things, and starts the process. She hides her ears and tail and asks how she feels, and Tia laughs as she feels that she has the same ears as Yuya and other humans. Yuya stares at her because he did not know that she thought like that, and reassures that she does indeed look like the rest. There is a hole where her tail used to be, and he gets embarrassed when he sees it and looks away as he tells her that they should get her newer clothes. Tia experiences her first car drive and yells that it is sliding on top of the road. They are going to get new clothes for Tia, and when she tried on different clothes, both Relia and Yuya tell her that she looks good in the clothes and looks exactly like normal girl from the human world. She says that it does not feel too safe to wear such clothes. In the car, she wonders if what she's riding on is different from the bike, and it is not shaking that much. She seems really excited to wear a dress from Yuya's world, and Yuya yells that this is not a place that she should be clinging to him in public. Relia, with an indifferent look on her face, says that she was to eat a buffet soon. The three of them go around the mall eating different things, and Tia is experiencing it all for the first time in her life. Yuya is happy to observe her, but when he looks at the bill, he realizes how much he has spent on them. With a serious expression on his face, he tells them that their tour ends here. He tells the two of them that both Tia and Relia are stepsisters, and there was trouble back home, so Tia came to Relia for help, but due to some complicated reason, it will still take time to go back, so the two of them have to live together with Relia. So in turn, Relia came to him. This is what he will say to his mother, and decides to go and get done with dealing this situation. If they get suspicious, they can take care of it by using Relia's magic. He asks if they will okay with using excuses, and Tia looks really nervous because she has to lie. He tells them that he will take care of them if something bad happens, and as long as they listen to them, there won't be a problem. When he rings the bell for his house, he sees that Ayumi opened the door, and Ayumi notices Relia, and when she notices another girl standing next to Relia, she shook out of her mind and thinks to herself that there is no way her brother is this popular. She asks him through whispering if she kidnapped the two girls. Tia asks who the girl is, and Yuya tells her that she is his sister, and the three girls seem to get along well. Yuya washing the dishes as he sighs to himself because things seem to be sailing smoothly, and they just had dinner together, and everyone seems to have gotten used to each other. Ayumi seems to be pouting thought for some reason. Relia and Tia come out of the bath, and Ayumi goes in next. Yuya gives the two some tea and sights down himself. He says that they should tell him now, and Relia is confused as to what he is talking about. He asks that they should tell him Tia arrived with her, and that there has got to be more than just the story he was told before. Tia is about to speak, but when Yuya asks where Mel is, Tia suddenly starts to shake as the light leaves her eyes. Relia sighs as she says that Tia came to her because Mel told her to leave, and Yuya asks why Mel told her to come to him. Relia answers that she did not want Tia to die. Yuya is surprised to hear that answer and asks what she means by that, and Tia says that the enemy country declared war on them, so Mel sent her away. It started about 20 days ago, and they quickly seized villages around the area and demanded them to surrender. So when that happened, Mel told her to leave and go to Relia, and Yuya get lost in thought, thinking that humankind can perish in that war. He starts to get angry, and Relia tells him to calm down. He apologizes for behaving like that, and Tia comforts him, and Relia says that this was the reason she did not want to tell him in the first place. Yuya asks if Relia can bring him back to Versteria, and Relia immediately refuses. She asks what he is planning to do after he hears her answer, and before he can say anything, his sisters comes into the room and wonders if they are fighting. They make up some bizarre excuse that Yuya won't sleep with them. Yuya lays in bed, thinks back on what Relia said to him. He really does not have any place to go stick his nose in a war, but he still won't stop thinking about it, can't stop being bothered by it. Yuya tosses a frisbee disc into the air and the dog enthusiastically catches it. Yuya pats the dog Elizabeth for the wonderful jump, and Akane can barely keep up with the energetic Yuya. Yuya flexes on Akane, explaining that this is all a result of his daily training. Akane explains that she also trains daily to maintain her figure, and the two of them continue playing with Elizabeth. Yuya decided to accompany Akane and her dog for a morning stroll, which is something he often does as he leaves for his morning training. But today, Yuya is on a mission. Akane can easily see through him though and immediately questions him. She appreciates that he's playing with Elizabeth but asks him if he'll be okay leaving Relia and his loving sister alone in his home. Yuya nervously grabs onto Elizabeth and says that Ayumi is showing the girls around the city right now, so it's fine. Akane says that they'll come to her place today, so it's fine. Akane leaves to go buy drinks, and Yuya tries bribing Elizabeth with jerky and asks the dog to come with him. Later at night, Yuya calls Tia and Relia out, saying that he needs to tell them something. They look at him with curiosity and ask if he needs something. Suddenly, Yuya's eyes light up with ambition, and he tells them that he is thinking of going back to Versteria and intervene in the war between the kingdom and the empire. The girls are shocked, but Yuya seems determined. He says that Relia was right about this not being something that an outsider like him should stick his nose in, but he recalls all of his precious friends and comrades back at Versteria. He explains that he can't leave all those people to fend for themselves in this war. Relia questions Yuya's plans without hesitation, reminding him that he went through a lot of trouble to return to this world, but now he wants to go back to the battlefield. She further questions how he's planning to return after that, and Yuya explains that he's going to return right after putting the war to a quick end. He hasn't forgotten his academic duties, explaining that he has university entrance examination next month, so he needs to get back to this world soon. Relia asks him if he has any intention of changing his reckless plan, even offering to go help the kingdom in his place. She explains that there will be no need for him to go then because she will be enough to destroy the Empire's army. Yuya smiles, stating that he's happy that she thinks that, but this is due to his selfishness. He explains that he doesn't want to fight, so if he wants to get involved, he will do it of his own volition. Relia asks him again how he will manage to return after that, stating that he can't ask the goddess for help this time. Yuya says that he actually has a plan for that. He explains that Tia was able to go to this place because she was in a contract with Relia, so he can just make a contract with an animal from this world and summon it in that world. He tells them that Akane has a big dog in her house and tried to make a pact with that dog this morning. He says that he tried to summon it in this world and check if it can teleport with him, which went well. Relia is still not too sure about this, and Tia seems distraught. Tia begins to cry, stating that she just wants to stay beside Yuya. She says that Melthuria and Bruno are back in the kingdom, along with other people that she cares about, but if she had to choose between them, she would still stay with Yuya. She looks up at Yuya with hope, stating that if she has a choice to not give them up either, then she wants to help them. Realizing that Tia is all on board with his plan, Yuya turns to Relia, who sighs in frustration. She complains that he's hard-headed and usual and tells him that he can go ahead and do it. Tia bursts in tears and hugs Yuya while Relia asks them when they are planning to leave. Yuya says that it will be better the sooner he leaves. He makes up his mind and explains that he will leave today, right after telling his mother and Ayumi. Back at the kingdom, there is chaos on the battlefield. General Liam assesses the situation, explaining that they were able to successfully predict their moves and set up an encirclement beforehand. General Regin informs them that the Empire's army is gathering in the western side of the grassland, further stating that he believes they are planning an invasion soon. Bruno gives them a rundown of the enemy forces when suddenly, a Solider rushes in and explains that General Vistas and Duke Rands from the Urvania Holy Empire have arrived. Liam orders to let them in and thanks them for coming. They explain that this matter is of great importance to them as well, and they've all come here with steel resolve. Liam encourages everyone, stating that they will be able to repel the Empire if they all work together. They start talking strategy, and Liam tells them that the plan for their army is to take the attack head-on, while slowly withdrawing to the road. This will slowly whittle the enemy numbers. He explains that this is their only option because the difference in their number is too big. General Vistas and Duke Rands declare that they will seize victory in this battle despite the number disadvantage, saying that comparing this battle to their battle against the evil god, they have a good chance of winning this battle. Vistas tunes in, stating that he wants to keep a route so that Leon can withdraw from behind, explaining that he has a duty to lead this nation in the future. He straight up tells Leon to abandon them and run if push comes to shove. Liam completely refuses Vistas' proposition, explaining that the kingdom still has Melthuria and the king, so there's no need to worry. He declares that he's here to fight till the bitter end along with all the soldiers. Suddenly, they hear a strange ruckus outside the camp when a soldier runs in and announces that they spotted a flying magic beast approaching them from the east. Liam goes outside to have a look and wonders if it's a wyvern or a group of soldiers when he realizes that the beast approaching them is a dragon. He tells his soldiers to brace for impact as the dragon draws closer. Suddenly, Leon recognizes the dragon and the majestic beast lands in front of them and they can't believe their eyes. Liam asks in shock and disbelief how Yuya is there right now, and Yuya is relieved, saying that he made it in time. A little while ago, when Yuya was still home, Ayumi and Yuya's mother are fairly concerned about his sudden decision to leave. Yuya realizes that he's going there as reinforcement for the war with the Empire, while Tia and Relia have to go because of their homeworld's situation. Yuya wanted to explain it to them clearly, but he wonders if that explanation is a bit too much. He tells his mother that he will explain when the time comes, and his mother agrees with his decision, stating that he's free to do what he wants since he's not a kid anymore. She tells him that as long as he's not shaming the family in any way, it's fine, as she asks him when he will be coming back. Yuya tells them that he might be back in a week or so and explains that his exams are starting next month, so he can't stay there too long. They say their goodbyes and Yuya hastily arrives to the kingdom with Relia and Tia. Relia transforms into a grand dragon and asks Yuya what the plan is now. He says that he doesn't know the situation yet, so he was planning on going to the capital of the Althurius kingdom if he doesn't know how to get there. Relia offers to fly them near the capital, but Yuya asks her if she's sure about that, as this is a human war and the dragon said not to get involved in human wars. Relia brushes it off, explaining that she's only obeying her master according to the contract, and if she happens to eat some human troops in the process, there's no problem with that. Yuya warmly thanks her for the help, and they get on the dragon's back and set off on their journey and soon arrive near the castle. A bunch of guards confront the newly arrived intruders, only to realize that the hero has returned. Yuya tells them that wants to speak to the Emperor and asks them to convey the message. Yuya is determined to tell the Emperor right away and hopes that the people of the kingdom hang in there. Yuya, Relia, and Tia are waiting anxiously when someone knocks on the door. Melthuria enters the room happily and hugs Yuya. She starts crying, asking if he's really there or if she's just dreaming. Yuya is flustered and says, "Long time no see." He can't help but notice Mel's nearly absent curves, and she questions his intentions, asking if he's thinking something rude right now. Eris teases Mel for being so bold, and Yuya greets Eris as well. Evidently, Eris has not changed at all, as she explains that she's glad to see him again and asks him if he'll finally do the thing she wants this time. Mel hesitantly calls out to Yuya, seemingly want to say something when there's a sudden knock on the door. The king is ready to meet Yuya now, and Mel tells him that they can talk later, and she leads him to the throne room. Yuya enters the throne room once again, and both the king and queen are relieved to see him. The king tells him that there's no need to kneel and greets him with joy. The king asks Yuya the reason for his sudden return, and Yuya explains that Tia informed him about the actions of a certain fool. Yuya proclaims that he intends to join them in this war with the Empire and fight alongside them once again. The king thanks Yuya for lending them his help, but suddenly the Minister of Domestic Affairs, Belrius, interrupts the throne room, declaring that this war is really important to them. Yuya seems irritated to see him again, recalling that Belrius is the second most important person in this kingdom who is deeply trusted by the king. He is an honest nobleman who used his own assets to build orphanages, and he is not someone who is greedy for money. That aside, Belrius was always against someone from another world getting involved in the important matters of this kingdom, and the two of them always ended up fighting each other whenever they met. Yuya notices that there's something different about him compared to last time. Belrius continues his rambling, exclaiming that in the previous war against the evil god, they had no other choice, but now things are different. He says that it would not be wise to involve someone from another world into this war. The king says that he's as stubborn about this matter as always and admits that he understands Belrius' concerns. The king repeats Belrius' words, stating that this war is very important and they cannot afford any more losses. The king reminds him that Yuya volunteered to help them this time, but Belrius is not satisfied. Before Belrius can cause any more ruckus, Lady Barclay appears behind him and tells him to calm down. He's absolutely terrified to see her, and she casually reaches towards his head and pulls his wig clean off. She really just snatched this man's weave. His shiny bald head radiates brightly, and Yuya is not shocked at all. He turns to the king and comments that he mastered light magic already. The king bursts into laughter, and Yuya recalls how he didn't like this guy at all 2 years ago and cursed him with lose 1 hair per 100 steps hex. Yuya realizes that he forgot to remove that hex before leaving, and Belrius proclaims that they will not give Yuya any sort of reward even if he contributes well to this war. Belrius stomps out of the throne room in a fit of embarrassment and rage. The king states that this must mean that Belrius is also okay with Yuya joining the war, and they continue their discussion. The king tells Yuya that their kingdom and the alliance of cities and heroes have formed a united front, and they have these forces gathered on the eastern side of the plain east to Frystal. The king further elaborates that although there's no report of a battle at the moment, but there's no doubt that the fighting will start in a few days. The king asks Yuya to help out there, and Yuya agrees to head out right away. Melthuria steps in and asks to join Yuya and help in the battle, and the king becomes concerned. Mel proclaims that they are sure to win this war with Yuya's help, and if she accompanies him, she can save more lives. Mel explains that with her, Yuya, Tia, and Relia fighting together, it will be the return of the hero party. The soldiers would be greatly encouraged as well. The king acknowledges her resolve and orders Melthuria to help Yuya and join the army under Leon. They agree to leave as soon as Mel is ready, and Yuya promises that he will bring them good news in a few days. The king thanks Yuya once again for his help in the previous war, and they head out to join the battlefield. Leon is equally shocked and glad to see Yuya and even Melthuria. Yuya greets him and hands him a letter from the king. Leon explains that although he has a lot of questions, this letter explains that he has returned to help them in this war. Leon thanks Yuya for coming and remarks that they will meet to review their strategy. Leon and the others head inside the camp, and Leon starts their meeting. Yuya wastes no time and gets straight to work. He asks them to tell them the strength of the enemies in their army, as well as the strategy that they are planning to employ. Raijin tells him that at the moment, the Empire has 20,000 heavy cavalries, 15,000 light cavalries, and 40,000 footmen, including war slaves. Their archers and support are around 5,000, which all totals to around 80,000 men, but they don't know how many of them are mages. On the other hand, the kingdom has around 20,000 men, the Empire has 10,000, the Alliance of Cities has around 5,000 men and 3,000 volunteer adventurers, which adds up to around 38,000 men in total. Yuri realizes that they are going up against an army twice their size, and even with him joining them, it's not nearly enough to close the gap. He remarks that it's not entirely hopeless, but not the best scenario either. Yuri thinks to himself that it would have been better if he could use wide-range magic attacks to wipe away the enemy forces in one move like all the light novels. But he spent all of his time focusing on taking down the evil dragon, and so he has no experience going up against many enemies. Yuri realizes that the key to win this battle is strong teamwork between the different armies. Raijin adds that according to the report from the reconnaissance team, the position of enemies and the contour of the battlefield, it will likely approach in a moon-shaped formation. This formation will likely have the light cavalry on the right wing, heavy cavalry in the left wing, a mix of footmen and heavy cavalry in the center, and their support units will be in the back. He states that they will likely plan to stage an offensive from the center using their heavy cavalry while sending their right wing to attack from the flank. He further adds that they will likely send the rest of the footmen in the center, while the left wing will break the kingdom's army into two. Yuri grasps onto the situation quickly, realizing that it is an orthodox strategy, and normally the bigger the army, the less flexible their formation is. Yuri thinks that normally the best strategy would be to surround them and destroy them, but that's impossible with the difference in their numbers. Yuri understands that since they've taken the eastern side of the battlefield, the enemies have no choice but to come at them with that formation. Yuri remarks that this is actually good because his preparation will not be in vain. The story starts with the main character narrating his isekai experience. He explains it as the average isekai in real-life loser gets summoned to a parallel world to defeat an evil demon, save the world, and return to his own world. The cliché isekai. However, that's not how it went for him. The protagonist is seen facing off with a demon, where he bravely swings his sword at the demon's neck, defeating it with his final blow. The demon vanishes as the protagonist lays on the floor, regretting his decisions. He's in a delusional state and talks to himself about how he's never going to do this kind of thing again. A goddess descends beside him as she feels ignored by his monologue. The protagonist is half dead and yells at her. She instantly heals him and acknowledges his efforts. He did indeed go through hell to save their world. The protagonist asks if this is the last thing that he needed to do. The goddess agrees, claiming the god Runavilio was the last threat to their world. She assures him that he will reach his world as they agreed on. The goddess tells him that he'd return as soon as he performs the ritual of return. She acknowledges the protagonist's efforts, being forcefully summoned, but still taking on the harsh trials of their world and restoring peace. The goddess Valienus offers her gratitude to the hero. The hero protagonist tells her not to summon him again for this, and for his hard work not to be wasted. Valienus did not meddle with the affairs of humans, but that she make an exception for him. He returns to the palace, where the hero is met with celebration and praise. The girl jumps on Yuya, the hero concerned about the blood on him. He tells he's been healed and pats her head. The people ask Yuya, "Is it over?" He affirms the world has been saved. He's asked to go respond to the citizens. Yuya stands at the doors as the people look at him in anticipation. He raises his fist in the air in victory as the people celebrate the W. The hero reveals his name, Kashiwagi Yuya, in the real world. Yuya Kashagi in this one. 3 years ago, Yuya was summoned into the world Wilterias from modern-day Japan by the goddess Valienis. He was a university student with no remarkable features. He sits with Tia as he looks at his room there. Tia asks if he's really going back. Yuya starts to yap about how it's sad he won't see them again, while Tia starts to sob at his return. She begs him not to leave and stay. Tia didn't have a family. She lost her family after they were hunted down, and she was captured as well. Yuya and the others saved her, and she traveled with them ever since. Tia thinks of them as family now. And to lose her family again would be devastating. Yuya tells her that he would be returning to his own real world with his own family. Tia begs him to take her with him, but he can't. Modern-day folks won't accept a cat girl. The maid of their palace, Eris, calls for Yuya as the preparations have been done. Just like Tia, she asks the same, was he really returning? She almost complains that he never tried to get with her. Eris bargains for a little alone time with Yuya. Apparently, he's the raised god of this world, but then he's also a Sigma who won't accept any of the girls dying for him. Eris tells him that it's not too late still, but he declines again, trying to leave as soon as possible. She only wanted a minute of his time, but he kept up his Sigma persona. Eris keeps asking Yuya, but he scrambles to deny her. He does consider for a moment, but ultimately decides against it. Yuya is lead to the king as he bows down to him. As the others, the king too asks Yuya to stay in this world. He offers Malthuria, the second princess, as a bribe for him to stay. Yuya declines, to which the king thinks it may be because of her small stature. He offers Eris as well, who had already tried to make a move on Yuya. The princess praises him for his efforts and offers her gratitude. Like everyone else, she too wanted him to stay longer. The crown prince Leon walks in with the same request, for him to stay and be with the princess. Yuya's mags offer him their goodbyes, with one being bitter as he had been embarrassed by Yuya had only one wish, and it was for Tia to be taken care of. The king reassures him of this, claiming she's close to the princess Malthuria already. As Yuya says his goodbye to Tia, she asks him to visit her again if he's around. He then proceeds to the chamber, where Malthuria is to conduct the ritual of return. He apologizes for being late as she acts friendly to him. She wanted to be casual with Yuya, not how formal he acts. He thinks about her cuteness to himself but doesn't let it out. Bro must be allergic to women. When Yuya arrived to Wilterias, they kept his original clothing. Now he'll be returning in those same clothes. Malthuria acknowledges the wrongdoing of dragging someone from the human realm taught his one. Despite being burdened with these issues, he did not have any grudges. She offers her gratitude and that they will make the best of what he has given them. Malthuria tries to make a move on Yuya. She expected him to stay as her husband. As much as he wanted to be with her, he was more desperate to get home. He denies again and continues with the ritual. Malthuria starts the ritual, as Yuya's body glows a bright light, and in an instant, he vanishes back to his own world. Yuya is confused,